or, we're in a place where God can't reach us. We've done too much, or we've thought too much, or we've said too much, or we've just ignored him because ultimately it's easier to do our own thing, but we're never too far from God. And sometimes being in a room with other guys, whether it's virtual or in person, you hear like, oh man, this guy went through that, but he's still here. He's still in the fight. He's still being blessed. He's still somebody who is, despite what he's going through, is still aiming to be a better man, a Christian, trying to figure it out. That's the thing that counts, because until your dying breath, you're figuring it out. You're trying your best. We're never going to get it right. He said, none of us are perfect, but we're in the fight. And that sometimes you just need to know, hey, keep fighting. You're in the fight. There's somebody next to you who's in the fight too. He may fight a different way, or he may fight, a different battle that you fight, but he's still fighting. So why can't we just all fight together?
You're listening to Real Men Talk with Anthony Crenant, a podcast designed to challenge, encourage, and equip men to live out biblical masculinity and become strong leaders in their homes, churches, and communities.
What's up, guys? Welcome to Real Men Talk. Today, I've got another special guest for Men Like Us. I'm so excited. If you've not watched the other Men Like Us series, go back and listen to those today. I've got Ryan, he's kind of an OG right there from the beginning, and I'm excited. Ryan, what's going on, man?
Good to be here, Anthony. Glad to be a part of this. Another OG of Men Like Us.
Yes, and I tell you what, I'm so thankful for the group of men that we have in Men Like Us, and what they represent, what they do. Thankful for Jody, which we've had on the podcast. Rob and all the guys, and man, I think we've really got something special going with Men Like Us, and the goal is to really introduce Men Like Us to the listeners, to people who maybe have not stumbled across Abundant TV or stumbled across Men Like Us before, because I really do think that we have something very rich here, and that every guy can use. What's your thoughts?
I think the thing I like about it is because a lot of times, and I think we've talked about this in a previous episode, we go around as men in silos. We kind of just do. And sometimes we just get I know for me, I get in autopilot mode sometimes. But being a part of Men Like Us, just hearing the different stories, we're all doing the same things. We're all fighting the same internal battles or physical battles. And to be able to actually hear somebody else say it, to be able to admit it myself and say, hey, look, this is what I'm struggling with. And to be able to just have that platform where it's okay. I think that's huge, because right now it's I believe it's Men's Health Month, or I believe
mental
this
health,
is Mental Health Month. Yes. And that's something we just take for granted, and to be able to actually know that when I'm sitting up there, I'm talking to you, I'm talking to Jody, I'm talking to Joey, whoever is on the screen, there's no judgment. We're not judging each other. We're actually trying to learn from each other and grow with each other, and be able to give each other some sort of, hey, it's okay, man. I'm the same way. I'm going through this just like you. That to me is it feeds me, and it also just makes me glad to be a part of this, because if we're talking about it, the group of us, the 4 or 5 of us on at one time, think about the thousands, the millions of men that are going through this all day, every day, and they just don't have that place to talk about it, to say something, to be able to admit that they're broken and they need some help. I think that's what I like about Men Like Us, because we're offering that place to say, hey, you're okay, man. We're all going through this.
Yes, 100%. And what's cool about it is, which you touched on it, but even though we're the ones on that platform, it gives us liberty to do the same thing, right? Because it's something very important about that. If we're not transparent, right? When we're on that, we're not any help to anybody else.
Yeah.
Right. So almost gives us this platform to that we, I don't want to say have to be transparent, but if we want to be effective, right? And so when you have that liberty to be transparent, there is healing that takes place, right? When you're able to be open and able to, because what I love about men like us is all of us, we're all just dudes from, very seldom do any of us have really a whole lot in common other than men like us, right? Yeah. We're all just everyday, regular guys who love Jesus, who strive to be better, who want to help other men grow, right? And that is awesome. That is awesome. It always whenever I stop and I think about the diversity that we have in men like us, we've got wrestlers, and you're a college professor, and we got one pastor, you got a wrestling commentator, you've got a sports announcer, you have all these different guys. I'm a construction worker, you have all this different stuff, but we're all there for one purpose, right? Mm-hmm. Which is so inviting to other guys, because it's like, hey, it doesn't matter who you are, doesn't matter where you're from, doesn't matter what you do, doesn't matter what your background is, nothing. Everything, we all go through the same things, all of us.
And to that point, that's what it is with God. He doesn't look at the construction worker differently than the college professor or the wrestling commentator. He looks at us all the same. We put those barriers and blockades on ourselves, all like, oh, well, I work harder than that guy does, or he doesn't know my struggle. My struggle is this, and he can never relate to it. God doesn't see all that. And so for us as men of God to be able to come together and say, hey, look, we're all the exact same. We have different lives that we lead, but when it comes down to it, like you mentioned, the core is the same. The core of loving God, loving our families, and trying to do the best we can for those around us as well as ourselves. I mean, that's bare bones. That's what men like us is, and that's what we all are striving to be. We just go about it in different ways. Yeah,
man, it is something very special. It is something very special, and I love that I get to be a part of it. And I love that I love being an OG. I love being able to see it evolve right to what it is. We're constantly growing. There's constantly guys being added to it, and I love it and stuff. But being able to see just the idea, and then this thing just grow into something. I think the last episode we had like 111,000 views or something like that. I mean, oh my goodness. We started with I less than half of that.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And here we are 6 months later, and and so what I think that proves is it proves that there's a massive need in men's lives. There's something missing that men need, and that is community. Mm-hmm. Right? It's community to know that it's okay to be broken. It's okay to not be okay, right? Mm-hmm. And that you don't have to have it all figured out, right? There's no blueprints for being a husband. There's no blueprints for raising children, right? There's definitely no blueprints for ministry, and all this stuff. And so it's like, okay, so if these guys who are just everyday guys, even though they're on the screen, they're just everyday guys. If they feel the same way I do, okay, so maybe God can use me in the same way.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. That's the hope.
Yeah, and it's crazy because yesterday, 2 days ago, I was talking to a guy that I interviewed for my podcast, and he was a drug addict for 30 years. 30 years he was homeless and a drug addict. And he rejected God because he had a lot of trauma in his early life, and he was just like, I would rather somebody kill me than be turned on to God. But at one point something changed for him, and it turned it all around. And now he's into street ministry. Now he goes around and he says, I want to go to the places where people don't want to go. I want to be around the homeless people. I want to be around the people that normally would be looked over. And that's his case may be extreme, but that's what it comes down to for us, that we all feel like at some point we may be too far gone, or we're in a place where God can't reach us. We've done too much, or we've thought too much, or we've said too much, or we've just ignored him, because ultimately it's easier to do our own thing. But we're never too far from God. And sometimes being in a room with other guys, whether it's virtual or in person, you hear like, oh man, this guy went through that, but he's still here. He's still in the fight. He's still being blessed. He's still somebody who is, despite what he's going through, is still aiming to be a better man, a Christian, trying to figure it out. That's the thing that counts, because until your dying breath, you're figuring it out. You're trying your best. We're never going to get it right. He said, none of us are perfect, but we're in the fight. And that sometimes you just need to know, hey, keep fighting. You're in the fight. There's somebody next to you who's in the fight too. He may fight a different way, or he may fight, a different battle that you fight, but he's still fighting. So why can't we just all fight together?
That's right. Because we're stronger together, 100%. And man, the fact that we can look at each other, right? We're on the screen, we're having these conversations. We can look at each other and be like, you know what? I'm in the fight, right? I may be broken, but I am striving, right? I tell the men in my men's ministry all the time, the goal is to strive, right? We're not going to be perfect. The sanctification process is messy. It's, we're going to fall, we're going to mess up, all these different things. But the fact that we continue to strive to look more like Jesus, right? That's the goal. That's the fight that you're talking about, right? That yes, I may have messed up yesterday. Yes, I may be, I may have done this, I may have done that. But I am setting my mind to it that today I'm going to look more like Jesus. Obviously I'm not going to look like Jesus, but I'm going to look more like him. And that's it. And that's what men like us is all about, right? How do we just help other guys go through the things that we've already been through, to know that it's okay to just strive sometimes, right? Sometimes it's all about, you were talking about like autopilot. Sometimes it's all we can do just to survive, right? I know there are days that it seems like all I know is survival, right? Mm-hmm. Today, like I just have to make it to the end of the day, because tomorrow's got to be better than today, right? And that's okay. That's okay. God still uses us in the middle of that mess. Right? He allows us to be a light. When we strive for him, he allows us to be a light for him. Right? And man, it's exciting. It's exciting. And so I really want to encourage people that if you have not checked out Men Like Us on Abundant TV, that you go check it out. Check it. You can download Abundant TV pretty much on any streaming service. Check it out. Men Like Us drops every third Wednesday of the month. You've got to check it out. And you'll see Ryan, you'll see me, you'll see some of the other guys we've had on there. But Ryan, one of the goals that I want to do in this Men Like Us series, I obviously want to turn people on to Men Like Us and to Abundant TV and stuff like that. But I want to introduce them to the guys who are a part of it, right? The men who are just like us, right? Which obviously is you. And I want them to know who you are, right? So when they see you, they're like, hey, I can relate with that guy, right? And so just tell us a little bit about yourself, whatever you feel, whatever direction you want to go, whether it's a conversion story, whatever it is. Just tell us a little bit about who Ryan Dearborn is.
So I guess if you ask who I am, by a lot of standards, an overachiever of what my life should be. I'm an overachiever. Grew up in a single parent household. Father wasn't around. At one point was on Section 8 housing. But from there, I had a strong mother, strong grandmother, strong family base that always lifted me up. Was blessed enough to go to college, to live out the dream of being a broadcaster and a journalist. Married a beautiful woman, have two beautiful daughters. I've been to places I never thought I'd go. I've been blessed to do things I've never thought I would do. So I like to think of myself as an overachiever, because I tell a lot of people, like when I talk to young folks, especially young men, young black men, that in school, I was in some of the quote unquote smart classes, but I was not the smartest one in my class. But the ones who were smarter than me, unfortunately, ended up either in jail or dead. And I was like, that can't be me. I can't be that. I've got to be different. God was always, grew up in the church, was always the head of my life. And because of that, I think it showed me a path. Like, when you don't see it, just believe, just have that faith like a mustard seed. And you just have faith, it will be rewarded every time. It may not be rewarded the way you think it will be, but it'll be rewarded. So as I've gotten on, I've been able to. Now I'm blessed to be a broadcasting professor at my alma mater, Western Kentucky University. So now I get to teach journalism and broadcasting to students just like it was taught to me. I get to educate them and not only be able to see them come into college, but see them leave college as different people than they were when they got there. To see them out in the world telling stories about people, about how people's lives have been impacted, making change. And that, to me, that's one of my favorite things. And then, obviously being a husband and a father, I'm like, those were the things I always wanted. Didn't know if it was going to happen for me, but God blessed me with a wife who is my better half in every sense of the word, and then two beautiful little girls. So it's like, I mean, they are. If I do nothing else in this world that's right, those two little girls are the things I've done right in my life. And, from there, I'm always just trying to grow. I'm trying to learn. I'm trying to do better. I'm trying to put good things out into the world, because good things have been given to me all my life. People have stood up for me and fought for me and prayed for me and been there for me. So if I can turn around and give even a little bit of that back to the world, in whatever way that is, that's my goal. That's my life. That's what I want my life to be.
Yeah, man, that's awesome. That's a phenomenal testimony. Here you should have been a statistic, right?
Absolutely.
But God.
If it wasn't for him, I would be right where. And I look, and it's sad because sometimes I will look at some of the people in my yearbook from back then who are dead or in jail. Some of them turned it around, and I'm thankful to God for the ones who turned it around. But for the ones who didn't, I was like, man, that I was probably this close. Mm-hmm. But like you said, but God.
That's right.
Carried me a different direction.
Man, that's phenomenal. That's phenomenal. So with being a husband and being a father and all this stuff, so you're a college professor, a broadcasting college professor. How did you get into this?
So I always wanted, when I was a little kid, I always wanted to be in broadcasting. I always wanted to be on the news, do journalism. So after I graduated from college, went right into the business, worked for about 8 years as a TV news reporter, did some producing, anchoring, reporting, all that. After a while, I got burned out because it's a tough business. It's a heavy business. The things you see, the fire, murder, death, some of the emotional tolls it takes on you. It's a tough business. So got out, worked in nonprofits for a little while, and then ended up working for my university, my alma mater, WKU, for a little while on the philanthropy end of it. But again, God, not thinking. I was like, I would love to teach. So I was adjunct communication instructor because I had gotten my master's in communication. So I was like, I'll do that, and maybe at some point, maybe I'll teach. But nine times out of 10, I'm probably just going to do philanthropy, then move on to something else. And it's crazy because we were coming to a point where the office I was working in things were starting to not they weren't good. So I'm like, okay, God, probably need to leave the university. As much as I'd love to stay here because this is home to me, I need to go somewhere else. I need to find a better job or a different job. So I applied for a couple different positions that would have paid a whole lot more money, so on and so forth. And they looked like they were, oh yeah, this is going to happen. Door shut. And I'm like, okay. So not really sure what this means, but I got to do something because where I'm at right now, it ain't working. And then literally I was on a search committee because they knew I was a broadcasting alum from the university. They were looking for somebody to sit on a search committee to help find the new broadcasting professor. So I was like, sure, I'll help out because I know the program, so on and so forth. So went through the process. We had great candidates. None of them took the position. So I joked with one of the guys that said, hey, you know what? I'll teach the classes until you guys hire somebody. And then he said, no, seriously, why don't you? I'm like, well, because my resume isn't those guys' resume. Even though my resume is good, it's not theirs. They were like, so apply. I applied. They were like, you check off all the boxes. And they were like, basically, it's your job to lose because of your credentials, your understanding of the business, of working. We're already working with students, all these things. So I was like, well, I'll apply. I applied. God put me in the space, put me in the place. I got the job, and I've been a broadcast professor almost 5 years now. So I've been able to work with students that have seen them go from like literally coming on campus, not knowing anything, to graduating and now getting jobs in great television markets and being storytellers, award-winning storytellers, and just good human beings. And it's just like that told me, I was like, God, you knew this is where I want to be at. You knew this is where I needed to be at. And I just I love my kids. I love my job. I'm like, I can't see myself doing anything else because this is what I think I was built for.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I can hear the passion in your voice, right? You can always tell when somebody's made for something. You can tell that when they have that kind of passion, that kind of fire for that. And it's pretty cool because now you've been doing it long enough that you've literally seen kids come in as freshmen, right? You've seen them, come in and leave as seniors in college, and like you said, move on to jobs and different things like that. And so I can only imagine the joy that comes with that. And, especially when something that you're so passionate about, that you've done and stuff, which is cool because I didn't know that about you. I didn't know that you were in, I knew you were a broadcaster professor, right? Broadcasting professor, but I didn't know that you used to be all that other stuff. Man, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Just being a part of that.
Yeah, it was an amazing job, and I still do it. I still freelance, do little things in there. But I got to travel. I got to meet cool people. I got to tell stories that literally I would not have been able. Like I can do this. I can tell this story. I can meet this person. I can affect people's lives, and like the stories that always stick with me. Meeting people were really cool and going to certain places, but it's the stories where somehow I affected somebody's life. That somebody, who I told their story and they called me later or they emailed me. They said, thank you for telling my story. Or somebody else said, hey, I saw the story you did about this, that, and the other, and it really resonated with me. And that's the beauty of, the media, of storytelling, of being able to connect people that like what we're doing right now. This is connection. Mm-hmm. Before this, before social media, before things where we could record and talk to each other, if I want to talk to you and wherever you're at, we had to do something. We had to do a phone call, or we had to set up all this camera equipment. Now we can tell stories literally from our computers, from our phones right now, and teaching my students how to be able to, whether we're doing it like this or whether we're doing it in person, how do you tell somebody's story? How do you make this not about you as the journalist or the reporter, but their story? What is their story? Why does their story matter? What's the thing about them or the situation or whatever? And I think that's kind of goes back to what we do with men like us. Absolutely. What's our story? What's our situation? How can we communicate us or this circumstance or this situation to others to where they feel it, to where it's not just, oh, I'm going to turn this on and, oh, yeah, there's more bad news going on in the world, or there's more of this, there's more of that. Peel that back. What's the story? Why does somebody losing their house in a fire matter? Why does somebody who maybe, a little kid who's doing a lemonade stand, we hear that story 1,000 times, but every story is not the same. Every lemonade stand is not the same. Maybe that little kid beat cancer and now he's selling lemonade to help some other little kid beat cancer. There's 1,000 stories. It's just a matter of telling them and telling them in a way that honors the people that the stories are being told about and peels back that layer of, okay, I've heard this 1,000 times. No, you haven't, because Anthony's story is not the same as Ryan's. My story is not the same as Joey or Jody or anybody else on Men Like Us. Our stories are all different. It's just peeling back that layer to figure out, how is it different? And how are we connected? How are we the same? How is my story the same or different than, if we've got 110,000 people watching? Mm-hmm. How many of them have a very similar story to me or a very similar story to you? We'll never know it because we won't be able to hear from all of them. But if we tell our story in such a way that it's going to touch their heart, it's going to touch them, they'll be like, you know what? Me and Anthony, we're a lot alike, and I see what Anthony's doing. I'm inspired to do something. I'm inspired to make a move. I'm inspired to get closer to Jesus, or I'm inspired to sit down and say, look, I haven't been doing what I should be doing. That's the beauty of it. That's the goal. That's what I love about storytelling and the business and being part of it and teaching others, whether you go into broadcasting or whether you go a completely different route, you understand how to tell a story because we're all walking stories. It's just a matter of how you tell it.
Man, that's good. That's good. And along with being a broadcasting professor and all that stuff, you also have a podcast.
I do. Right? I do.
And,
yes, sir.
Yeah. And so tell us a little bit about your podcast.
All right. So mine is called Church with No Walls. And so it's been going, about a little over 2 years now. It initially began during the pandemic. So it kind of shifted a little bit. So during the pandemic, when everything was shutting down, churches were shutting down, and basically you might have somebody with an iPad and a pastor preaching in a church, so on and so forth. So I am the media minister of my church. And so I just got to thinking, how are churches surviving right now? What does it look like for other churches? And so initially my thought was, I'm going to do a little documentary. I'm going to kind of go around and see how that looks. But time and money I had not. So I was like, okay, we're not going to do that. Instead, I'm going to turn to a podcast. So what I did was I was like, okay, as we started to kind of come out of the podcast, the pandemic a little bit, I started interviewing folks and saying, hey, tell me, what was it like at your church? How did you guys navigate it? How did you guys make sure that you were able to stay solvent when members are wanting to come back but maybe not coming back? Mm-hmm. So examined everything from offering in the church, how people are giving, how people are, equipment wise, what are people doing? What are people doing when it comes to just being engaged in the church? It's going to be like 10, 15 episodes. I was like, you can only do so much before it starts to be repetitive.
Right.
But then we talk about God, but God. So then he was like, you're not done. And think about it, the name of your podcast, which is Church with No Walls, which initially meant how did churches survive outside of the walls of church during a pandemic. He's like, take that, play with that. So then I started thinking how about start looking at all these different unique outreach ministries, things that are outside of the church. What are people doing that are not inside the four walls of the church, and how are they impacting people? So from there, I've been able to I talked to one guy. He teaches jujitsu, but he also incorporates that within worship. He also he has a band. They play Christian music in bars as a way to engage people. I've talked to a young lady, a friend of mine. Her husband was killed as a result of gun violence. And rather than being bitter and angry, her ministry was turning that into a Street Widows Foundation, where now they make care packages. They work with and they worship and they put their arms around widows of of men who've died from gun violence. They've taken things and they've turned negatives into positives. So I've been able to interview a great amount of people and learn more about it from them, and also looking at just what religion means in different facets, in Greek fraternal organizations. How are those connected with religion? Black history and religion. So I've been able to kind of go in and have different conversations about religion and frame it as we're not looking at just what's inside the church. Let's look outside of it. Let's think about, because most of the, other than maybe a few hours a week, we're outside of the church walls.
Right.
Where most ministry, when most everything is going to happen. So let's talk about those things. We can definitely focus on what's going on inside the church, but when we're only in there physically for just a small amount of time, let's talk about all the other things that circle around it. And if we can come and when I do an episode, especially some of the more what's the word I'm looking for? Some of the more intriguing topics. I always say, hey, like we talk about with men like us, I'm in no way an expert. Some of the people I bring on may be more expert than me, but even then, even the biggest expert doesn't know everything. So we're going off of what we know. We're having a conversation. We're trying to learn from each other and discuss things. And it's been eye-opening. It's been a blessing. It's been one of those things where I'm like, I'm so glad I did it. I'm so glad that when I've said, oh, it's just gonna be 10, 12 episodes because that's all I want. That's all I know I'm gonna do. That's it. God said, nope, you're going to do more. You're going to keep going. I'm going to provide you the ideas, because I'll literally be sitting somewhere and somebody will say something like, that's an idea. That's somebody who's doing this ministry right here. Let me reach out to them. Let me find them. Let me connect with them. Or a topic will just pop in my head like, we haven't covered that. Can I find somebody in that space or in that place? And the episodes turn out amazing because I usually find somebody and we just have conversation, and it's just cool to hear other people's experiences. So, I mean, I love it.
Yeah, man, that's awesome. So, church with no walls, right? Is that right?
Yep.
Church with no walls.
That's correct.
And so, like, where I want to be very conscious of your time. We're coming up on a half an hour. So, give us just like a whatever you want, just one last plug, right? Obviously, your podcast, Men Like Us, different things like that. Any kind of closing thoughts that you would have. And then at the end of it, I really want you to let everybody know how they can find you and your podcast.
Okay. So just closing thought would be, we only get one chance to live this life. We can do it in solitude or we can do it together. And the older I get, the more I'm learning you can't do it by yourself. As much as you think you can or you think you have, you haven't. Because you had God walking with you, beside you, around you, in front of you, on top of you, under you. He's been there. So you haven't been doing it solitarily anyway. But you need a group. You need a tribe. You need people with you, because when it's all said and done, you come in alone, you leave alone, but in that time in between, you can be with other people and you can love on them and let them love on you. It's okay, like you said, to be broken. It's okay to need help and want help and get help. So I think that's huge. For me, I'm growing, and I treasure every day that I can learn something, that I can have a connection, a real honest connection with somebody, because they don't always come along. You don't always get that real connection with somebody. And then as far as my podcast goes, you can check it out, Church with No Walls. It's on Buzzsprout. It's on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. It's on YouTube. You can go on Facebook or Instagram. If you're on Instagram, you can type in Church with No Walls Pod and you'll find it. On Facebook, it's type in Church with No Walls. We have a page on there. It comes out every other Friday. So we dropped one last week. So it's basically it's every other Friday at midnight. So if you just look on the Facebook page or the Instagram page, it'll let you know We've got all the old episodes, and I try to update. I'm trying to do better about my social media, about putting like some snips, some clips, and some quotes and stuff like that. It's audio only, so maybe one day we'll click over to video. But right now it's audio only, so you can listen to it anywhere at any time. There's a bunch of episodes that you know, if you don't like all of them, you might find one you like. If you only find one, I'm good with that. If one touches you in some sort of way, I'm good with that. Then hopefully I've done what it's meant to do.
Amen. Man, that's awesome. Ryan, this has been an absolutely phenomenal conversation, and I appreciate you coming on. I appreciate you being a part of Men Like Us, and thank you.
And you as well, man. It's been a pleasure getting to know you and being able to do this with you. As the OGs, we got to stick together.
That's right. That's right. And for those of you who are listening or watching, I really want you to go check out Ryan. Go check out Church with No Walls. Check out Men Like Us on Abundant TV. If you guys have not checked that out, you guys are missing out. Ryan is a phenomenal guy, and you've got to check out his podcast. And so if you got any questions for me, you can email me, realmen@palaceofpraise.com. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, all that good stuff. And, you know, I am so thankful for Ryan and other guys in our lives, and he's spot on. We need community. We need other men. And find you yes, podcasts are great. You know, obviously we do podcasts. You know, Men Like Us is great, but you need a physical church body. You need a men's group to be a part of that you can lock arms with, and I really want to encourage you to do that. And as always, I want to end in a prayer. Holy Spirit, thank you for Ryan and his ministry. I ask you, Lord, to just bless him and everything that he's doing. Lord, we ask you, Lord, to touch the listeners and the watchers. Lord, that you will just pour your Spirit upon them. Give them a hunger for you. Give them a hunger for your word, that we can grow as the leaders that you have called us to be. And in everything that we do, we want to bring glory to your name. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Thanks for listening to Real Men Talk with Anthony Cronut. If this episode challenged you, take the next step. Check out his book, Framework for Biblical Masculinity. Share this episode with another man and keep growing as a leader in your home, church, and community.
This episode was edited and produced by Real Men Studios, LLC, helping podcasts sound as good as their message.